Greetings, good people. Welcome to Who Knows It's Just Life, the podcast. I'm your host, Kyle. Thank you for fitting me into your day today. On today's episode, it should be pretty brief, just talking about kind of recapping the holiday season, kind of the end of 2022, and kind of wishing you all a happy new year as we get into 2023. I'll give a little bit of a preview into some of the episodes I think I'm going to do this year. But as I'll get into, I really don't know how this year is going to play out. So I hope y'all are still with me and are ready for the ride. Today, though, I do want to first start off with a dedication of sorts to Mr. Turner Cooper, who passed away about a month ago, early, kind of in the middle of December. For those who know me and for those who have, I think I might have mentioned it on some episodes, maybe a couple years ago. I'm a fan of the Let's Talk Bruh podcast and participated in the Let's Talk Bruh book club that took place between 2020 and 2021, I think it was. And so a big shout out to Jeremy on that. The podcast was great, is great. And during a little hiatus during the COVID time, the pandemic time, they did a book club, which I loved and appreciated. And I participated in a few of those, quite a few of them, actually. And that's how I met Turner. Turner was an amazing person. He was literally just I can't put into words like how powerful he is, how powerful he was as a person. It's just tragic to think that he is no longer with us. He's actually my brother's age. I didn't know it at the time. He's my brother's age. And actually, I mentioned it to my brother during the holidays, and he knew him. I think he last saw him at homecoming last year, basically. So, despite me having known him just briefly and through Zoom on a book club, the impact of just his personality, his centeredness, his wholeness, was deeply felt by me and I think a bunch of other fellas on the group. And so I just wanted to put a message out for him and to kind of dedicate this episode to him, because he had this a way of challenging me in particular, but I mean anybody in the book club. He had a way of challenging with love and compassion, a way of like asking questions and just diving deep into things. And there's questions he asked me directly, but even just posed to the group in the book clubs that are still with me today, and there's continuously things that I think through and I'm wrestling with. Honestly, I'm still sorting through, learning through my responses to some of the things that he posed in those groups, and I'm so eternally grateful and thankful for him. I'm so sad to have heard that he is no longer with us. He's one of those people who it's one of those people where you meet this person, you meet him, and you're like, I'm glad this man exists. I'm glad this person, this human being exists on this planet. I didn't even know he's a teacher. His reach in the community is vast, which I was made aware of upon his passing, and that's not a surprise. And I'm just glad that so many people got to experience him, and that he was able to touch and influence so many people, especially children. It's sad to hear that he's no longer with us. I do want to quote part of a post that was posted on Instagram by Nicholas Gaines, who also was a participant in the book club, and he posted had a post on Instagram about Turner, and I just want to quote part of what he posted, because I think a lot of what he said resonated with me. And it really beautifully captures who Turner was and his impact. The way you taught, loved, centered, and amplified Black children was a masterclass in reparenting ourselves, breaking cycles of generational trauma. Queerness was a gift, and you knowing that you were both Black and queer and wanted everyone else to see you in your fullness of that reminds me to honor the Creator by just breathing every day. You wanted us aligned, loving, deeply caring, and highly regarding each other because you saw it as the highest form of worship to the divine, a way to offer thanksgiving for being created in those glorious, strong, and luminous Black bodies. Every conversation, anecdote, joke, song, and deed you offered was undergirded in urgency. It's like you were trying to teach us about our moments being numbered, and we didn't understand until now. Again, that was a quote from Nicholas Gaines's post on Instagram honoring the memory of Turner Cooper. So, just to kind of recap the last, I guess, month or so of the year, it was a great year. I mean, I for those of you listening to the several episodes, the last several episodes this year, I mean, obviously the trip to Ghana was amazing. Did a show about that. I also had the opportunity to travel to India for work, which was also fantastic as well. And those were only 4 days apart. So I was in like 5 time zones in like 2 weeks because we went to from daylight savings time to standard time. I was in Germany for like a hot second, and then I was in India. Like, it was wild. So that was quite a bit of travel there, but I was very thankful and blessed to have been able to experience that. I love concerts, as y'all probably know, and I had the privilege of being able to see Burna Boy perform in the beginning of December, and then I closed out the year with an Oddisee concert. And for those who don't know, Oddisee is a local DC rapper. He's been in the game for a long time, really doing really amazing work, makes beats and all that kind of stuff, and he represents multiple facets of his identity. He's black. He's from the DC area, but he's also Sudanese. So he brings just a lot of elements to the music and what he does. And this was the end of his most recent tour. He's got some music coming out later in January. So it's great to just kind of bring him home and come into the holidays with a couple of great performances. Burna Boy was amazing as well, by the way. Like, that show was incredible. It was at I'm going to say the Verizon Center, but it's not called that anymore now, but whatever. And it was weird. Like, it's weird for me because I go to concerts that are typically more intimate. They are standing room only for the most part, and just you get there early enough to kind of see over people or whatever. I feel bad for my friends that are shorter, but yeah. But this concert was like at the Verizon Center, so like everybody had seats, and my seats were like up in the top section, so like not the top, not nosebleeds, but like the 200 level section, which was kind of a cool vantage point. You kind of look down on the stage, right along the side of the stage, which was really cool. I had a great view of the band, which was dope. And so yeah, and instrumentation was fire. The dance choreography was fire. He had extra drummers coming out a couple times. I mean, it was just a phenomenal show. And I'm a fan of his more recent music, especially for the last album and a couple of songs from the album before. But I mean, he's been out there for a minute, so he did some day one music. He said he also been to DC before, and like a lot of folks had already come out to see him when he was here last. So I was appreciative of the fact that I didn't know some of the songs, and like DC was rocking with him, from songs that were before I probably even heard of him. So I was just happy to be there, and I'm happy to soak it in. And I feel like my appreciation for Burna Boy and his music was kind of heightened by the fact that I was able to be, in the continent, the month before. So that was super special too. As I mentioned in the last episode with Tony, my Uncle Sean is living here now. He's coming back to the States to kind of pick the next international travel in his journey, but he's gonna stick around in the U.S. for a little bit, stack some USDs, and then make his next move from there. But so he's staying with me for a while, which is super fun. It's great having him here with the kiddo, and so far so good. It's just kind of like when my dad was living here too. It's just kind of like cool family time for real. Like, the vibe is super cool. I'll get into how we folded into some of the things we did in a second. So yeah, the holiday season was cool. I feel like this year I wasn't as into it as I've been in the past. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just hot and cold every other year. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it was still cool. Like, it had a good holiday season. Had fun with the family and everything. One thing that was particularly fun for me was that I was able to do Kwanzaa with the kiddo, and I've done this over the years, but it's just, so I'm gonna just be honest. Like, I didn't grow up doing Kwanzaa. I still don't remember all the days in order, like, still, and shame on me, whatever. So it's tough because like I want to create this as a tradition. I want the kiddo to be familiar with it and to understand the African principles that are being taught in it. And I think it's valuable. I think it's really cool, and I want that to be normalized for him. But for me as the adult, it's kind of, I feel a little bit awkward and uncomfortable because it's not something that I was raised in. So I use some other books and things just trying to remind me how to do certain things and remind me some of the principles and some of the customs and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm pushing through that discomfort because I see the value of it. And so to kind of highlight that. So, my son's, one of his best friends was over, and we basically let them like have a sleepover or whatever. And this was on the night of Kuju Chakalia. And as part of that, I would have one of them read like what the day is about. And then one of them would read a selection of like either a poem or whatever from this book I have about, celebrating Kwanzaa. And so as part of it, we read the poem Choices by Nikki Giovanni. And I'll read it right here just to kind of like set the stage, right? So here's Choices by Nikki Giovanni. If I can't do what I want to do, then my job is to not do what I don't want to do. It's not the same thing, but it's the best I can do. If I can't have what I want, then my job is to want what I've got and be satisfied, that at least there is something more to want. Since I can't go where I need to go, then I must go where the signs point, though always understanding parallel movement isn't lateral. When I can't express what I really feel, I practice feeling what I can express. And none of it is equal, I know. But that's why mankind alone among the mammals learns to cry. So that poem was beautiful, is beautiful. And the discussion, I'm just tickled by how fruitful the discussion was, and for a few reasons, right? So my uncle was there, both my boys there, his best friend's there, and my best friend's mom, Tiara, she's also there. So it's all 5 of us. And it literally, for at least 30 minutes, we're talking about this. And mind you, when I brought up doing Kwanzaa, like, it's like, well, we want to play, we want to blah, blah, blah. There's like a million other things I'd rather do than light a candle or light some candles and talk about reading from a book or whatever it is. But it wound up being a central point of how the evening went. And it was just beautiful, honestly. So the first part of the poem talks about, not being able to do what you want to do, and not being able to have what you want to have, things like that. And this is a great time for that because, kids just got a bunch of gifts and they see what other kids get in terms of gifts and whatnot. And so the kids were talking about jealousy, wishing they had certain toys that somebody else got. And the adults were trying to share with them that, this is an exercise, this is an opportunity to be happy for your other friends who have maybe a toy that maybe you wanted that toy, but you can still be happy for them that they have it. And then you can also be thankful for what you do have. And the fact that you have a friend that has that toy means that you can play with that toy at some point, when you hanging out with them. So there's still value in that, but it's also just okay to be happy for them. And then to also just reflect on what you have to be happy for as well. And then towards the end of the poem, of course, it talks about feelings, which is extremely important. I know most young people, especially at their ages. So my kid is 9 and his best friend's 10. So they're right around ages where, you're learning a lot about feelings. You're learning a lot about social interactions with peers, with teachers, adults, and stuff like that. And feelings are a huge, huge, huge part of that. And I think they're also at the stage where I believe, especially for Black boys, like, the whole, crying and all that kind of stuff is starting. I'm not even sure exactly. I'm not the dad that says my boy can't cry. So I'm not sure when patriarchy starts teaching boys not to cry. Maybe that already has happened. I don't know. But I love how the poem ends with like, it's okay to cry. Like there's the reasons to cry. And we talked a little bit about that too. And my uncle was talking about having a journal and writing, and just sometimes you don't even know what you're feeling or how you're feeling, but you start talking about the weather or whatever it is. And then before you know it, your thoughts and feelings are coming out, and then you get to understand and process them and understand like what's happening. And maybe you realize, oh, I was jealous about something. Why was I jealous? Why, da 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 da. And so it was just a beautiful discussion. And part of the reason why I can speak about it so with such specificity is because my kid, he videotaped it on his iPad. And he's kind of been interested in theatrical performances, stuff like that. So actually, one of the things that I took him to for his Christmas present for me was to see Wicked at the Kennedy Center. He's a fan of musicals. We saw Hamilton or I guess 2021, and he just loves musicals. So Wicked was the one that he was biggest into in 2022. So took him to see that. So he's big into like performances, stories, and all that. So, but he's also interested in just like directing and like capturing moments and things like that. So he was videotaping the whole discussion. He participated as well, but he was zooming in on people. He was like, I was looking at the footage just before this to kind of like refresh my memory. But he was literally being a director of sorts, like getting different angles and whatnot. And so, and his best friend was like, hey, this is really great that you're recording this because we can look back at it and see what we've learned and da 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 da, which was also another astute observation on his part. And another thing too, we talked about, they got into like, well, I think my kid talked about why is it that people have different things, and what if is it that everybody wants fairness, everybody wants to have the same thing, so it's all fair. And then we got into like competition and why people have more or less than other people. And then his best friend said, well, if everybody had the same thing, there wouldn't be a need for government. And it was just like, like, wow, these kids are like really diving into this. Needless to say, it was such a beautiful conversation, and it like I said, it just flawlessly took over the evening. Like, it was just a beautiful discussion, and a lot of learning happened, a lot of processing happened, a lot of just like, level setting and perspective and whatever. And his friend has been to our house before during like after Christmas, so we've done a day of Kwanzaa before a couple of years ago, and so I think they even remembered that. He and his mom both remembered that. So it's starting to be a tradition, I guess, because at least for like that's just the thing that's happened more than once, and I guess that's the thing that makes it a tradition, right? If you've done it more than once, if you do it with regularity, annually, whatever it is, like maybe it's starting to take hold and starting to sink in. For hopefully at least the kids and for me as the adult to facilitate. I hope I shed some of the discomfort I feel being the MC of sorts with this, because it's really important, like I said, and I love that that Kwanzaa exists, and just the way that conversation went, it was just beautiful, and I'm glad that it has the value that it has for the kids. It was just it's really fun to see. So another cool thing about the holiday season was that, well, I don't know how cool this is depending on your perspective, but New Year's Day was dumb warm. It was like in the 50s, maybe even the 60s. And I guess that's not great because that means climate change is definitely doing its thing. And so whatever. But anyway, we made the most of it. And one of the reasons I love having my uncle here is he's very similar to my dad, but he like, we all are gonna, if there's a nice day, especially a nice day in January, we're gonna make the most of it. So we went to Great Falls on the Virginia side, and we did some hiking with the kiddo, and we packed food, and so we had like grapes and some sandwiches like to eat when we got to Great Falls. But we hiked, I don't know, probably like 4 miles or so. I don't even remember how many miles, but and I love that the Virginia side is nice because you can take all these different paths. You can kind of just chart your course, and it's just great. It's just great to be outside and have that be like the New Year's activity. Like, we went on a hike and we saw Great Falls waterfalls, which are beautiful. I still say that they're just as beautiful and awe-inspiring as Niagara Falls. I saw them both in the same year, some years ago, and I was like, you know what, this is just as good. Like, I don't care what people say. Like, Great Falls is amazing. So anyway, it was just a great holiday season overall. The music concerts were dope to close out the year. The holiday season itself was good. Having my uncle here is awesome. Having those experiences with the kiddo and his friends. We had other friends of his over too, so it was kind of nice to take advantage of some of the extra time away from the normal grind of activities and school and all that kind of stuff. So definitely a blessing to have that time. Coming into the new year, in terms of episodes, I have a few in mind, but I'm not sure what form the year is going to take, and I think that's perfectly fine and fluid. I'm embracing the ambiguity and the uncertainty of where things are going to go. Some things I definitely do want to do. I wanted to do an episode with my Aunt Jane. I was up in Rhode Island in November for Thanksgiving and I had my equipment with me, but we never found a moment to record. We have a tradition where we play tennis the day after Thanksgiving, which we did do that, but we didn't find time to record, unfortunately. But there's a book called Rising that I read, which my mom told me to read, but she was originally told to read it from my aunt, and my aunt's a science teacher in Rhode Island, so an award-winning science teacher in Rhode Island at that. So I want to have her on the show at some point this year since we didn't get it in last year. I also want to do an episode about the power of words. I'm not quite sure how that's going to take form, but that's something in mind. And I also want to do something about, I want to talk about Donald Trump and what he represents. How I think he represents the white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalistic nature of our country, and like in human form almost, if that might be weird to say, but I just feel like he fully embodies those three things. And I just think his mentality, the way you look at his life, and whether, I mean, like, is the man happy? Like, I don't think I don't know. Anyway, so I have some research to do about that, but I kind of just want to interrogate that idea a bit as well. I also want to do something about the 1619 Project. That is a book that I will read because I noticed that Hulu is dropping a series on it at the end of January, at the end of this month. So I want to finish that book before Hulu's series comes out. Okay, I realize that I don't have to watch the Hulu series right when it comes out, which means I could have as much time as I want to read the book. But darn it, I like having a goal like this to help me motivate me to read the book. So I want to do that. Probably have a show about that as well. That would be pretty cool. So yeah, another fun reflection about 2022 is that at this time last year, in January 2022, I didn't know any of the international trips I was going to embark on. One of them was only a month later in February when I met up with my dad in the Dominican Republic, kind of literally randomly, because I didn't even know, I didn't know about it like 4 weeks in advance. But then the trip to Ghana panned out, the trip to India, like none of those were planned in January that year. So here we are, January 2023, with respect to the show, trips, plans for the year, I don't know, and I embrace the I don't know. I'm just happy that there's an opportunity to have a new great year, and we'll see what the year holds. So that's it for this episode. I wanted to keep it brief, and I think I've done that. The song I'm rocking to comes from Volume 4, Ethio Jazz, 1969 and 1974, which I have to give shout out. So my sister's partner put us on to this album. I got to my mom's house and this was on, and the song that came on was the song I'm rocking to, which is I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Yegelle Tezeta, which is My Own Memory. And the reason this song stuck out to me is because when I heard it, I was like, oh, you're listening to Distant Relatives. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, this is what they sampled on As We Enter, which was the first track of the Distant Relatives album by Nas and Damian Marley, which came out in 2010, which is crazy. It was that long ago. But so that music is just amazing. It's like awesome. And so that's the song I'm rocking to right now. Heard it a bit in the holiday season, and yeah, it's just my vibes coming into 2023. It's great music. So shout out to them for putting me on and reminding me of where that sample came from, and that it's great music from coming out of Ethiopia. So that's it for the episode. Thank you for fitting me into your day today. As always, you can get at me on Instagram at RealDadult. That's RealDadult. You can let me know what you thought about this episode or any prior episodes, and also you can send me ideas for any future episodes. Hope to catch you next time. Until then, be safe, be well, peace.
Just Life podcast is recorded, produced, and edited by me. All thoughts and views expressed on the show represent that moment in time. Participants have the right to be wrong, learn, and reshape their ideas as the journey through life continues. Please remember to like this episode. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, thank you